The debate over who deserves the next shot at Islam Makhachev's welterweight title is heating up, with a clear divide emerging between historical legacy and recent activity. While champion Makhachev has expressed a desire to defend against former longtime king Kamaru Usman, prominent MMA voice Ariel Helwani is making a firm case for the surging Ian Machado Gary. Helwani acknowledges Usman's place among the division's all-time greats, but argues the meritocratic case must be based on recent form. Ian Machado Gary has done more in the past year, won more, fought more, and helped the UFC more than Kamaru Usman has in the last 4 years, Helwani stated. He pointed to Gary's active 2025 campaign, which included a short-notice win over Carlos Prates and a decisive victory over former title challenger Belal Muhammad at UFC Qatar, as evidence that Ian is the obvious choice over Kamaru. The logistical path to the title shot, however, involves more than just merit. According to Makhachev's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, the UFC recently approached the champion about a January 2026 defense, with both Usman and Gary listed as potential opponents. That plan was reportedly shut down by Makhachev's mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, likely due to the short turnaround after Makhachev's welterweight debut and title win at UFC 322 in November. This creates a complex landscape. Usman represents a legacy-defining superfight, a chance for Makhachev to dethrone a dominant former champion. Gary represents the hungry, active contender who has tirelessly campaigned for the opportunity, bolstering his resume with key wins on short notice. With the January date seemingly off the table, the UFC now has more time to weigh its options. The decision will signal the promotion's priority, rewarding current momentum or staging a historic champion versus champion spectacle. For now, the welterweight division waits as Makhachev rests, while Gary's lobby tour and Usman's legendary status continue to collide in the court of public opinion.
Arman Tsarukyan finds himself in a familiar yet frustrating position in the UFC lightweight division, the clear-cut top contender with no clear path to the title. Despite cementing his status with a dominant submission win over Dan Hooker at UFC Qatar in November, his 5th straight victory, the championship opportunity has gone elsewhere. Instead of Tsarukyan, the UFC has booked an interim lightweight title fight between Justin Gaethje and the charismatic but less proven Paddy Pimblett to headline UFC 324. This decision has drawn criticism from fans and pundits who view Tsarukyan's resume as far more deserving, especially compared to Pimblett's, which lacks a win over a current top 5 opponent. "The real fighters like me are watching and waiting for our time," Tsarukyan told ESPN MMA, voicing the widespread sentiment that the sport's matchmaking is not always a meritocracy. Rather than sit idle, the pragmatic Tsarukyan is taking a unique approach to his forced hiatus. He plans to stay active and sharp by competing in wrestling and grappling matches outside the UFC. This is a strategy he successfully employed in 2025, competing 3 times between his UFC bouts. During that span, he notched wins in karate combat, the Abu Dhabi Extreme Championship, or ADCX, and a submission victory over UFC legend Benson Henderson in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu contest. For Tsarukyan, these matches serve a dual purpose: maintaining competitive sharpness and generating income while he waits for the UFC to call. His activity highlights a stark contrast to the narrative often surrounding inactive contenders. He is in essence forcing his own momentum. The interim title bout at UFC 324 creates a complicated landscape. Should the winner emerge unscathed, they would be next for undisputed champion Islam Makhachev, potentially pushing Tsarukyan's shot further into 2026. However, should an injury occur, or the UFC seek a fresh contender later in the year, Tsarukyan's readiness and undeniable ranking make him an inevitable choice. For now, Arman Tsarukyan's title shot remains on hold, but by staying busy on the global grappling circuit, he's ensuring that when the call finally comes, he won't just be waiting, he'll be battle-tested and ready. For the first time since a devastating knockout loss ended his night at UFC 322, former welterweight champion Leon Edwards has broken his silence. Taking to social media, Edwards shared a cryptic but reflective message. "Yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future, but today is a gift." The post marks a public reemergence following the lowest point of his career. In November, Edwards was brutally knocked out by Carlos Prates, suffering the first stoppage loss of his MMA career. The defeat extended a difficult skid to 3 consecutive losses, a stark fall for the man who once dethroned the long-reigning Kamaru Usman to capture the UFC title. His current reality is a complex climb back. The welterweight division has surged forward without him. New champion Islam Makhachev now holds the throne, and a queue of hungry contenders, including the surging Michael Morales, the resurgent Carlos Prates, and the vocal Ian Machado Gary, have all staked compelling claims for a title shot. Edwards, who hasn't won a fight since his title defense against Colby Covington at UFC 296 in December 2023, now finds himself on the outside looking in. The road back to contention is steep. As he acknowledged, a single victory will not be enough. He will likely need to string together multiple wins to re-enter the championship conversation. His next outing, whenever it may be, will undoubtedly be framed as a must-win scenario for the 32-year-old Birmingham native. For now, Edwards' message suggests a focus on the present, the gift of today, implying a period of regrouping and recalibration. After reaching the pinnacle of the sport and experiencing a precipitous fall, Leon Edwards' next move will be one of the most closely watched narratives in the welterweight division, a test of whether the former champion can rebuild his path to the top. The hype surrounding Olympic gold medalist wrestler Gable Stevenson's transition to MMA has found a powerful megaphone in Joe Rogan. The UFC commentator recently used his podcast to sound the alarm for the heavyweight division, passionately endorsing Stevenson's frightening potential after reviewing footage of his early fights. "Gable Steveson is the guy. That's the guy," Rogan declared. "He's not even in the UFC yet. Olympic gold medalist, freak athlete, 250 pounds, moves like a cat." Rogan revealed he took his advocacy directly to UFC CEO Dana White, sending him a video of Stevenson's latest performance with a succinct warning: "Everyone's when this guy comes out." Rogan's excitement stems from Stevenson's rapid development. Now 2-0 as a professional, the 25-year-old has showcased a startling blend of his elite wrestling base and newfound striking. He KO'd this guy with a left hand and then took him down as he was knocked out, Rogan described, emphasizing the surreal speed and athleticism for a man of his size. "That kind of speed is nuts for a heavyweight. Really good striking already, and he's only been striking for a year." Stevenson's move to MMA comes after a brief, unfulfilling stint in WWE, marking a serious pivot to a sport where his physical gifts may be more directly applicable. However, his arrival is accompanied by significant controversy due to past sexual assault allegations from 2019, a factor many fans continue to grapple with as his athletic profile grows. For now, the combat sports world is focusing on his in-cage ceiling. Backed by the influential endorsement of Joe Rogan and with the UFC's attention officially garnered, Gable Stevenson's path is clear. The message has been sent. A new, uniquely fast and powerful force is developing in the heavyweight ranks, and when he arrives at the UFC's doorstep, everyone, as Rogan put it, might just be in trouble. A single cryptic photo of UFC featherweight prospect Shara Bullet Sharapov has ignited a firestorm of speculation across social media, amassing over 1 million views and dividing fan opinion. The image shows Sharapov, clad in bright orange clothing, seated in front of a plexiglass partition, speaking on a telephone to another man on the opposite side. The setting bears a striking resemblance to a jail visitation room. The visually provocative post has left the MMA community asking one primary question: is this a glimpse into a serious real-life situation for the Dagestani fighter, an elaborate promotional stunt, or something else entirely? Opinions are sharply divided. One camp interprets the image literally, expressing concern for the fighter's well-being and speculating about potential legal troubles. "This doesn't look staged at all. Is Shara Bullet okay?" wrote one concerned fan. The orange attire, a universal symbol of incarceration, heavily fuels this narrative. Others are skeptical, citing Sharapov's and his team's history of attention-grabbing social media antics. They argue the photo is a deliberate piece of viral marketing, possibly to build intrigue for his next fight or a sponsored content deal. This is 100% a stunt. A third, more analytical group suggests it could be a scene from a documentary, a short film, or a philanthropic visit, noting that the photo is professionally framed. Without context from Sharapov or his team, the vacuum of information has been filled with theories. Until an explanation is offered, the enigmatic image will continue to fuel debate, proving once again that in the digital age, a single unexplained post can become a headline.
The cordiality didn't last long. Despite champion Merab Dvalishvili's pre-fight promise that the bad blood with Petr Yan was settled, their UFC 323 pre-fight press conference erupted into a heated exchange centered on excuses, injuries, and legacy. The spark flew when Yan, reflecting on their first fight in 2023, a unanimous decision loss where he famously stuffed 49 of Dvalishvili's takedown attempts, cited a significant physical disadvantage. "In my first fight, I fought with him with one arm," Yan stated, a comment that immediately drew the champion's ire. Dvalishvili, who has grown visibly frustrated with opponents citing injuries after his victories, launched into a passionate tirade. "Petr, you are better than this," he shouted across the dais. "Stop making excuses. Please, no excuses. I will beat you on December 6th. What excuse are you going to make? Tell me now." The Georgian champion then turned the tables, aggressively questioning Yan about his current health in an attempt to preempt any future justifications. "Do you have any injuries now? Yes or no?" "I guess not," Dvalishvili pressed as the Las Vegas crowd roared its approval. After the noise died down and Yan received a translation, the stoic Russian contender responded with a confident declaration. "Guys, I feel great," Yan said. "This Saturday you're going to see me in the best shape of my life. I vowed to reclaim the bantamweight title he once held." Dvalishvili's final retort was a simple, pointed dismissal. "Good luck." The tense showdown sets the stage for their highly anticipated rematch this Saturday at UFC 323. For Dvalishvili, it's a chance to definitively silence a former champion and a frequent critic. For Yan, it's an opportunity for redemption and to prove his first loss to the machine was merely a product of circumstance, not skill. With the bantamweight title on the line, their war of words has now officially reignited the rivalry.
The UFC's historic move to Paramount Plus in January 2026 will bring a permanent and welcome change for viewers, an earlier start time for its biggest events. As the promotion prepares to launch its new broadcast home with UFC 324 on January 24, officials have confirmed that pay-per-view main cards will now consistently begin at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. This shift marks a departure from the long-standing 10 p.m. Eastern Time start time, a schedule that UFC briefly experimented with years ago before reverting. Now, with the transition to the streaming-based model on Paramount Plus, the earlier slot is becoming the new standard for all numbered UFC events moving forward. The change is a direct feature of the new Paramount Plus era, where all UFC live events will be included under the platform's standard subscription, eliminating the traditional pay-per-view purchase barrier. While select major cards may also air on broadcast television via CBS, the primary home for live UFC programming will be the streaming service. The new schedule kicks off with a stacked January. UFC 324 in Las Vegas, headlined by an interim lightweight title fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, will be the first event under the new banner and the new start time. Just 1 week later, UFC 325 from Sydney will follow the same format, featuring Alexander Volkanovski's featherweight title rematch against Diego Lopez. The move provides greater consistency for fans and a more viewer-friendly primetime window, especially for audiences on the East Coast.
As the final UFC event on ESPN approaches on December 13th, the promotion is ushering in a new chapter, defined by a new platform, a new business model, and a new, earlier time to tune in. In a move that solidifies the growing prominence of real American freestyle, the promotion has landed its most controversial and high-profile main event to date. Polarizing former UFC welterweight title challenger Colby Covington will face former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold in the RAF5 headliner on January 10th in Sunrise, Florida. The bout marks the fighting return for both legends, each seeking to snap a losing skid outside the UFC spotlight. Covington's 17-5 in MMA has not competed since a loss to Joaquin Buckley at UFC Tampa over a year ago, which extended a difficult run where he has lost 3 of his last 4 octagon appearances, including championship fights against Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards. At 37, and with a new wave of contenders like Ian Machado Gari and Michael Morales surging, Chaos finds himself outside the UFC title picture for the first time in years. His opponent, Luke Rockhold, 16-7 in MMA, has been similarly active in exploring the combat sports landscape since his final UFC bout in 2022. The former Strikeforce and UFC middleweight king has tested the waters in karate combat and, most recently, Misfits boxing, where he suffered a knockout loss to Darren Till earlier this year. RAF5 presents a new challenge for Rockhold, who will meet Covington at a cruiserweight limit under the promotion's unique freestyle rule set. Scheduled to stream live on Fox Nation from the Amerant Bank Arena, RAF5 continues the promotion's aggressive push into the market, having already announced a compelling matchup between Bo Nickel and Yoel Romero for a future card. The addition of Covington versus Rockhold represents a significant coup, leveraging the name recognition and simmering star power of 2 veterans known for their outspoken personas and championship pedigrees. It remains unclear whether the 2 are signed to multi-fight deals with RAF or if this is a one-off venture. The fight is slated for the cruiserweight division, a sensible meeting ground for Covington, a career welterweight, and Rockhold, who competed most successfully at 185 pounds. For both men, it's a chance to recalibrate their narratives. Covington to prove he remains a top-tier draw and competitor, and Rockhold to demonstrate he can still be effective against elite opposition in a rule set that blends striking and grappling. The full RAF5 lineup is expected to be finalized in the coming weeks, but the promotional debut of Colby Covington and Luke Rockhold is already set to kick off the 2026 combat sports calendar with a major dose of star power and intrigue.
The UFC's middleweight division will be on pause for the foreseeable future, as champion Khamzat Chimaev is slated for a significant layoff due to injury. According to an interview with Adam Zuba, Boers revealed he requires surgery on his foot and does not expect to return to competition until after Ramadan, which ends in late March 2026. This timeline suggests a targeted return window of April 2026 or later. While footage from Chimaev's current activities in Qatar shows him moving without apparent distress, the need for surgical intervention indicates a deeper issue that must be addressed. The procedure adds another layer of complexity to the career of a fighter whose ascent has been repeatedly interrupted by health concerns. From a severe bout with COVID-19 that threatened his career in 2021 to various other injury withdrawals, Chimaev's history makes any surgery and recovery period a topic of heightened scrutiny and risk. With the champion now sidelined for at least 7 months, the UFC may be forced to consider booking an interim title fight to maintain momentum in one of its most stacked divisions. For Chimaev, the focus now shifts from conquest to convalescence. The hope for the promotion and fans alike is that the dominant force, who has not been fully tested in his UFC run, can fully recover and return to the form that made him a global sensation. The path back, however, is now a careful rehabilitation, with the goal of a triumphant return in the second quarter of 2026. After a 7-year chapter in the UFC, flyweight veteran Montana Delarosa is charting a new course, signing a multi-fight deal with the Professional Fighters League, PFL. The 30-year-old fighter enters the PFL following a UFC stint that concluded not with a fight, but with a contractual payout after a scheduled bout fell through in March 2025. Her final appearance in the octagon was a victory, a hard-fought split decision over Andrea Lee in June 2024. However, her contract expired after a subsequent matchup with Luana Carolina was scrapped due to Carolina's significant weight miss. Rather than re-sign her, the UFC opted to pay out her existing contract, making her a free agent. Her time in the UFC was marked by flashes of significant potential, most notably a performance of the night victory via armbar over Nadia Kassem at UFC 234 in 2019. A product of the Ultimate Fighter 26, where she reached the semifinals, Delarosa also notched wins over Ariane Da Silva and Rachel Ostovich, establishing herself as a durable and game competitor in the 125-pound division. Her birthplace is Montana, but she was raised in Texas. Delarosa's combat sports journey began on the wrestling mats at Azle High School. Her path took a turn into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after college, leading to a professional MMA debut in 2014. Before her UFC call-up, she captured the Extreme Fighting League flyweight title on the regional scene. Her move to the PFL represents a fresh start and a new competitive structure. The PFL's regular season format and championship tournament, with its $1 million prize, offers a clear, if arduous, path to a title and major payday. Delarosa joins a women's flyweight division that is actively building its roster, and her proven grappling skills and UFC experience could make her an immediate contender in the league's ecosystem. For Montana Delarosa, the PFL signing is an opportunity to reignite her career under a new banner, offering the stability of a multi-fight deal and the unique challenge of the PFL's sport season format as she aims to make her mark outside the UFC spotlight.